Hey, silent fighter. Yes, you. The one who smiles in the daylight, but battles invisible wars at night. The one who has been fighting demons no one else can see. You've been strong for too long, and now your mind feels like the enemy. There are two battles we face in life, one with the world and one within our own minds. And the truth is, the one inside your head is the deadliest. Why? Because while external situations cause temporary pain, it is your own thoughts that keep the pain alive. You can be sitting in a perfectly calm room with no enemies and no danger, and still feel an overwhelming wave of fear, regret, anger, and shame, because the battlefield is inside your head. You've probably had days where everything seems okay on the outside, but your mind won't stop attacking you. A single negative thought starts to grow like poison. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. They don't really like me. These thoughts start small, but if you don't take control, they spiral and take over your entire identity. That is where Stoicism becomes a powerful weapon. Ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca lived through hard times. They faced wars, slavery, exile, and betrayal. Yet, they learned something that most modern people never realize. You cannot control the world, but you can always control how you respond to it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that sink in. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to control every external situation. You just have to learn how to respond instead of react. You are not your negative thoughts. You are the observer of them. And if you are the observer, that means you have the ultimate power to choose how long they stay. This video is not for someone who just wants to feel good for 5 minutes. This is for the warrior who is ready to stop living under the heavy weight of their own mind. This is for the person who is tired of that subtle voice that says, "You are not enough." In the next 4 chapters, we will break down the most brutal mental traps that feed your negative thinking and look at the exact tools that Stoic philosophy gives you to completely destroy them. So, don't just listen to this. Study it. If you want true peace, clarity, and inner strength, do not skip any part. Each section builds directly on the last. Let's kill the negative thoughts, one Stoic truth at a time. Chapter 1. You are not the radio station. Let's begin with the most fundamental truth. You are not your thoughts. This might sound strange at first because we have been raised to believe that every voice inside our head somehow represents who we are. But take a moment and realize how many random, scary, weird, or painful thoughts pass through your mind in a single day. If all of those thoughts were actually you, then you would be changing identities every single minute. Stoicism teaches a deep but simple idea. The mind functions like a radio station. Just because a negative or anxious song starts playing on the frequency, it does not mean you have to dance to it. Learn to change the station. The ancient philosopher Epictetus once stated, "It isn't events themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." This means even if a painful thought enters your mind, "I failed," "I'm ugly," or "they left me," that thought only becomes true suffering if you choose to believe it. Otherwise, it is just background noise. Think of it like seeing a dark cloud in the sky. You don't run away screaming just because it might rain. You look at it, you acknowledge it, you prepare if needed, and you move on with your day. That is exactly how you must treat your negative thoughts. Acknowledge, detach, and let go. The problem is that most people let a temporary thought define their permanent identity. They think, "I had an anxious thought, so I must be an anxious person." Or, "I had a negative thought about my relationship, so it must be completely over." But thoughts are not facts. They are merely suggestions, not commands. A great exercise from the Stoics is to physically write down your disturbing thought on paper and question it like a brutal judge in a courtroom. Ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? What is the actual evidence? What would a wise philosopher say about this? Will this even matter in 5 years? By the end of this exercise, you will often realize that your thought had no real weight. It just felt heavy. Another powerful tool is to label your thoughts to create distance. Instead of owning the negative emotion and saying, "I am a failure," change your language. Say, "I notice I am having a thought that I failed." That small adjustment creates psychological space, and in that space you reclaim your power. Remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky, and thoughts are just clouds passing through. Chapter 2. The Anatomy of False Stories. Most of the time, it is not the actual situation that breaks you. It is the dramatic story you tell yourself about it. You experience a rejection, and your mind immediately says, "They never liked me. I will always be completely alone." You make a mistake at work, and the voice inside says, "You're a failure. You're not capable." This is the ultimate trap. You are confusing raw facts with your own wild interpretations. The Stoics understood this human flaw deeply. That is why Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Let's pause and unpack that truth. It is not the rejection, the silence, the failure, or the delay that hurts you the most. It is the negative meaning you add to it. And most of those meanings are false stories built entirely from fear, insecurity, or past trauma. Your boss gives you a short one-word reply, and you instantly assume they hate your work. A friend doesn't invite you to a dinner, and you assume you are not valued. You didn't get the immediate result you wanted, and you assume you will never succeed. But what if none of that drama is actually true? One of the most effective tools to kill negative thinking is to forcefully separate the event from the narrative. Here is exactly how you do it. Step 1. Write down what happened using just the raw, undeniable facts. For example, my text message was not replied to for 2 days. Step 2. Write down the exact story your mind is spinning around that fact. For example, they are avoiding me because I am a burden. Step 3. Question and challenge that story. Ask yourself, do I know for a fact this is true? Is there another logical reason? Have I ever delayed replying to a message for reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with the other person? Often, just going through this logical process helps you realize your thoughts are completely detached from reality. This is the core Stoic mindset. Bad things happen, but they do not have the power to define you. You alone define the meaning of what happens. Use your mind to heal yourself, not to hurt yourself. Your brain is a storyteller, but you are the chief editor. And a wise editor does not let false stories go to print. Chapter 3. Stop arguing with reality. One of the deepest roots of negative thinking is resisting what already exists. You do not suffer simply because something bad happened. You suffer because your mind keeps fighting reality, repeating over and over, "This shouldn't have happened." A painful breakup, a sudden betrayal, a lost career opportunity. We tell ourselves it wasn't supposed to go like this. And that internal resistance becomes pure mental torture. But the Stoics taught a powerful rule. Pain is guaranteed in life, but suffering is entirely optional. And suffering begins the exact moment you start arguing with reality. Epictetus put it perfectly. Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. Now, this does not mean you should celebrate your pain or pretend that everything is fine. What it means is that you must stop wasting your precious energy trying to undo the past or rewrite what is already real. If it happened, it happened. Accept it, and then instantly decide what you are going to do next. Think about a person standing in a heavy downpour of rain. They can scream, cry, and curse the sky all day. Or they can simply accept that they are wet, put on a coat, and keep moving forward. Which one do you want to be? The rain does not care about your anger, and reality does not care about your complaints. Most negative thoughts come from a desperate wish that the past was different. Why did they leave me? Why did I say that? If only I had taken that chance. But none of these loops change the event. They just keep the old pain alive in the present moment. The Stoics called the cure for this amor fati, the love of fate. It means accepting what is, even when it hurts. Why? Because the event itself is no longer in your control, but your response to it is, say you failed an exam, or your business idea completely crashed. A negative mind will say, I'm worthless. I never succeed. A Stoic mind will say, "This is a tough moment, not a life sentence. What can I learn from this reality?" Don't fight the moment. Use it. Every time your mind starts spiraling into, "This shouldn't have happened," catch it immediately. Say out loud to yourself, "But it did. So now what?" That one line flips your power back on because you stop being a helpless victim and start being the author of your next chapter. Peace doesn't come from having a perfect life. Peace comes from accepting what is and still choosing to step forward. Chapter 4. Emotional Hygiene and Recovery. Sometimes your negative thinking doesn't mean something is wrong with your mind. It just means you are completely tired, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually drained. And when you are running on empty, everything feels significantly worse than it actually is. You misread innocent texts, you overthink simple decisions, and you assume people are actively against you. Your mind becomes a storm not because you are weak, but because your internal battery is dead. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't just talk about rigid mindset. They talked about fiercely preserving your energy. Too many people try to think their way out of a mental storm. But what your body actually needs is recovery, not more thoughts. Negative thinking gets incredibly loud when you are sleep-deprived, when you haven't eaten well, when you haven't exercised, or when you are overexposed to digital noise, social media, and constant social pressure. You don't need to fix your mind every single time it feels anxious. Sometimes you just need to give your nervous system a break. Stoicism is not about being a cold robot. It is about being completely rational and responsible with your energy. If your mind is full, tired, and overwhelmed, you won't learn, you won't grow, and you won't think clearly. So give yourself a real gift. Sleep early tonight. Take a 20-minute walk outside without looking at your phone. Say an honest no to one thing that drains you. Write down your worries on a piece of paper and then physically step away from them. You are not broken. You are just overrun. Stop treating exhaustion like a personal weakness. Treat it like a clear signal that it is time to rest and refill. Furthermore, you must realize that your internal thoughts are fed by your external environment. Let's be brutally honest. Most negative minds are not born. They are built by toxic surroundings. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the daily habits you repeat are all planting seeds in your mind. If you are constantly surrounded by noise, drama, chaos, and pessimism, your mind will naturally reflect that chaos. Seneca warned us, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. This is pure mental hygiene. You cannot kill negative thoughts while actively feeding them every single day. Spend 7 days avoiding gossip, drama, or negative scrolling. Clean your room and unclutter your space. Unfollow the social media accounts that fuel comparison or insecurity. Spend time with people who actually want to grow. You will be shocked at how much quieter your mind becomes when you stop feeding the storm. Finally, arm your mind with gratitude. Gratitude is not just soft, positive thinking. It is a sharp weapon that destroys the roots of lack. When your mind is stuck in negativity, it creates a narrow tunnel vision where you believe nothing is working out and life is completely unfair. But the moment you force yourself to name what is going right, that toxic tunnel cracks open. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Most negative thinking is rooted in a feeling of lack. But gratitude reminds you of the survival stories you have already written. In your lowest moments, look life in the face and say, "Yes, this hurts, but I still choose to see what is here." Every single night, write down 3 small, specific things you are grateful for. A deep breath, a good meal, a clean space, or a reliable friend. This gives you psychological anchors, and anchors keep you from drowning when the storm hits. Conclusion. If you have listened this far, understand this. You have already started killing your negative thinking because awareness is always the very first cut. And awareness is exactly what Stoicism gives you. This isn't about never having another negative thought. That is not realistic. The Stoics never aimed for absolute perfection. They aimed for daily, consistent practice. You now know that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer. You don't have to argue with reality. you can accept it and grow from it. Your first emotion is not your final truth, so pause, reflect, and choose your response. The stories in your head are just stories, so rewrite them. Your environment matters, so clean it up. And remember, being tired does not mean you are broken. Sometimes, simple rest is the ultimate medicine. Marcus Aurelius faced immense loss, betrayal, and stress that few of us could ever imagine. Yet, he sat down every single day to write and train his mind toward absolute peace. Train yours daily, silently, and strongly. You don't have to be loud. You don't need everyone to understand your path. Just keep showing up for your mind and your life will begin to transform. If no one told you today, you are doing significantly better than you think. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are now aware. And from awareness, everything can change. This is how you kill negative thinking, not with violent force, but with daily clarity, inner silence, and raw Stoic power. Stay focused, keep your peace, and stay stoic.